here on the Colour of Country Life Flow FM. Wonderful to be joined again by Jo Hall, CEO of Wool Producers Australia. Jo, how are you going?
I'm good, thanks, Ricky. How are you?
Oh, look, excellent. Thanks. We'll talk in a little while about the challenging conditions farmers are facing, though. But first of all, we've got this report that's come out about sustainability in the wool supply chain. Tell us a bit about the background of why this is so important.
Yeah, Ricky, nearly 2 weeks ago, we released a report that we had commissioned to be done looking into the trade risks that we currently face as an industry with our long and complicated supply chain. So we engaged Deloitte to do this work under an ATMAC grant, which is an Australian Trade and Market Access Cooperative grant from the federal government, to look at diversified and domestic processing within the Australian wool industry. So about in 2020, I guess it was, we started becoming increasingly concerned about some of the trade risks that we were facing, whether that was freight and logistics or, the potential imposition of tariff or non-tariff barriers, and even things like the threat of emergency animal disease incursion, which, as we learnt this year, is getting closer. So we did that and released the report, and, we're pretty happy with the report, because what we were aiming to do is definitively rule in or out the potential of onshoring some of our wool processing.
Now, I noticed in the acknowledgements by your president, Ed Story, some contributions acknowledged by about David Michelle and the late Stephen Reid from Michelle Wool, who we knew Stephen very well. Our audiences were very familiar with him with his Friday Wool Report. How important is this knowledge from industry experts?
Oh, look, so I will start again by reiterating our thanks and support of David Michelle and the late Stephen Reid, and that's such a loss to our industry, and we really send our sympathies to the family again. But we did convene an industry steering committee, and the insights provided by people like David and Stephen were invaluable in getting this project done. And I know Deloitte also lent heavily on industry experts as well. So invaluable, because we had to make sure that we were dealing with factual information to produce. This is a non-biased report. It's an independent report. We did not have a predetermined outcome in mind when we commissioned Deloitte to do this, because we just wanted to know if it was in fact viable or not.
Yep, and this is the important one. Certainly, we've talked previously about sustainability and traceability and those sorts of things. It's an industry worth, according to the report, $3.6 billion in export income and about 84% of the global superfine wool supply. So what were some of the key findings in this report?
So we as you've mentioned, we do produce the largest volume of apparel wool in the world, and we currently export about 95% of our overall clip in a greasy or raw form, and so therefore meaning that we're processing 5% at home. What we found through this report, that there is a potential to onshore some of the processing, and we also obviously get asked things about, we have high labour costs here, but the report found that some of these costs that we would incur in Australia could be offset by things like reduced freight costs. And obviously when we're exporting greasy wool, we're exporting a lot of dirt, basically, because the product is raw. So there are certainly efficiencies that can be gained. We are obviously looking at a next phase of this project to really hone in on, where this could be viable, what locations could be viable.
Yeah, we talked. Just on that one before you move to the next topic, but we spoke often with Stephen Reid off the air and on it about the possibility the previous federal government, David Littleproud as Ag Minister, I think had put out sort of a consultation or possibly opportunities for either onshore or very nearer to Australian processing. Has there been much movement on that front?
So that was actually the second point of this project or report, was that, yes, we looked at domestic, but we've also looked at diversifying our markets for greasy wool. And we have focused specifically on the early stage processing of wool, because that is where the choke point within the global industry exists. So we found that there are a number of potential countries that could be explored further. and these countries included India, Indonesia, Bangladesh and Vietnam. So again, we will look at in the next phase of this project of exploring the potential of those markets further.
I guess a bit like the traditional view of farming, having all your eggs in one basket is never a good idea, even though you're sometimes driven that way by the way the market is going. Just looking at the weather conditions, though, for our farmers, there's probably a number of challenges they're going to be facing in terms of animal, I guess, welfare. I know there's been a lot of sheep graziers alerts issued across our network in recent times.
Oh, definitely. We are just experiencing, obviously in the east, just unseasonal conditions at the moment. Not only is it continues to be really wet, but it's been really cold this week too, and last week as well. So it is having an impact on production, and we're starting to see water-stained wool coming onto the market, and that's a reflection of the unseasonably wet year that we've had. But we're also now in those areas that are currently experiencing floods, having issues with accessing sheep. Obviously, those areas are flooded, and again, our thoughts are with those people that are impacted at the moment. The shearers simply can't get to the sheep. So, yeah, we are monitoring that situation, but at the moment, there's literally nothing anyone can do to get to those animals, but I'm sure it will catch up soon.
Yeah, I guess we can't helicopter lift all of them in cages, as I've seen some footage in regional Australia, out of the area to get them somewhere they can be processed.
No, unfortunately. So, again, we're just thinking of those people, and hopefully there's an end in sight soon to this ongoing, I guess, disaster is how it would be described in many areas.
Does the industry provide some sort of support or assistance, or does the government provide adequate support when it comes to challenges like foot rot or fly strike that might be a bit more prevalent this current season?
Look, there's a lot of information being put out by state governments around, managing flies, worms, foot issues. At the moment, there's a lot of industry webinars, Sheep Connect and other groups, production groups are doing information sessions that are available to all growers, and also AWI on their website have a list of flood resources as well. So there is information being provided by both industry and government, and we would strongly encourage anyone impacted to seek out that information, and obviously the financial support that is on offer from state and Commonwealth governments at the moment.
Well, Joe, we're speaking with Andrew Partridge from Michelle Wool tomorrow for our weekly wool report, and at least there's some positives for our producers. The market's taken an upturn this week at least.
Yeah, silver linings. So, we certainly needed to see an upkick in the market, so long may it continue.
Thanks again, Joe, for joining us. Joe Hall from Wool Producers Australia.
Thanks, Ricky.